The sun has left and forgotten me.
Your stories don't define you, but how you tell them will. Hi, I'm Sarah Elkins, your host and chief storymaker at Elkins Consulting. In my most recent W-2 job, I was responsible for helping facilitate really difficult meetings about how to manage the fuels, the dead and dying trees, in the watershed area that feeds our city's water supply. Representatives from every community impacted by forest health and our wildland-urban interface, that's where the city intersects with overlapping wildlands, we all came together to discuss the best way to protect our infrastructure, homes, and lives while maintaining and keeping the integrity of our wildlands and roadless wildland areas. Lumber companies, recreationists, nonprofit environmental organizations, federal, state, and local government agencies came together to try to come up with reasonable solutions to this really significant risk to our city. We brought all kinds of resource materials and people into the room to share critical information before making any decisions. We had silviculturists, those are tree biologists, soil scientists, wildlife biologists, water scientists, ecologists, and more. I learned a lot about forest health, wildfire risk and behavior, and our city's precious water supply and treatment facilities. That was about 10 years ago, and many of the strategies we put in place through our plans are continuing to be used. And a lot of the work that was done in the subsequent years have definitely provided protection for our city from potential wildfire damage. Just recently, I was hiking near my home and saw the smoke from a controlled burn just a few miles south of town. If you aren't in the Western US or Canada, you may not realize that often agencies will intentionally set small fires in our forests to naturally, in some ways, reduce the fuels. Those are the dead, fallen trees and that very thick buildup of dead leaves and dry pine needles that are on the forest floor. These controlled burns are a critical part of forest health. Just removing the fuels doesn't leave the forest in its natural state, because many of our pine tree species require fire to pop those seed pods to propagate. Plus, bringing heavy equipment into the forest can cause serious erosion problems. As I watched the smoke rise and drift south with the breeze, I realized this could be a good analogy for life. You see, a controlled burn isn't random. Many years of science and planning make this strategy work most of the time. We've seen a few controlled burns get out of control and cause significant damage, but that's pretty rare. And the wildfires we've seen over the past years without those controlled burns have wreaked far more damage. When our community agencies plan for a controlled burn, they work with data, scientists, and local government agencies and community organizations to ensure safety and effectiveness. They won't begin a burn if there's any risk of high winds or maybe very hot and dry days ahead. Like many of my friends and relatives, I'm trying to shed a lot of stuff right now. I have way too much clutter in my home. Too many items being stored that I'll never use again. And even in my life activities, I'm finding I need to shed things like relationships that no longer serve me, relationships that don't feel reciprocal at all, commitments that feel too obligatory and not meaningful, and work activities that aren't moving the needle for me in income or intrinsic reward. So I'm thinking about strategies to do a kind of controlled burn right over here. That means taking inventory in my home. What do I really need here? What can I let go of? And taking inventory in my life. How am I spending my time? What can I let go of? And my work. Which clients are providing the greatest reward for me, where I have the most positive impact? Am I spending time on things in my business that don't serve my greater purpose? Don't worry, friends. I'm not about to strike a match and watch the destruction. We all know how that ends, with desolation, loneliness, and misery. A controlled burn requires research, planning, and a whole lot of patience. So instead of just lighting that flame, I'm going to take inventory. I'm going to consult with my spouse, my family, other people I trust, and strategically reduce the clutter and waste in my home, my days, and my mind. So listeners, now it's your turn. If you're feeling overwhelmed with too much mental and physical clutter, it might be time for you to take inventory too. Ask yourself the hard questions about what you truly need and want in your life and your home. And I hope you'll take the next steps to research and plan and patiently reduce that clutter. Thanks for listening to Your Stories Don't Define You, How You Tell Them Will. And hey, here's a reminder. I'm celebrating my 5-year bookversary now through May 31st, and I'd be honored with your company in my celebration. Starting this podcast was a wake-up call for me. I realized I was coaching my guests in sharing their stories, and they were finding great value in our time together. So I wrote the book to guide readers in collecting and sharing their stories with exercises and worksheets throughout the book. To celebrate this bookversary, I'm offering to sign and ship a copy from Montana to you. And every purchase will include an opportunity for a 20-minute bullseye story mining session for free. In those 20 minutes, we can uncover at least one meaningful story for you to fine-tune and use for your next interview, team meeting, speaking engagement, networking event, or maybe even a date. Your support over the years has been so appreciated. Thank you.
You must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.